West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think to NASA laboratory, coming with 8 hours.
When you read IP, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right to stand the process.
Now I've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the certainly biogenic emissions from these and other plans.
Now we're flying very far with this experiment on the DCA. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column way up.
The data that we collect in one flight, easy, 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we track. And so 50 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Hey, here we go on a Wednesday, first day of July 2015. How about it? Welcome, everybody, to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, the most powerful city on the planet. We're reaching out to you wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you today. And we've got lots and lots to talk about. Chris Christie, he becomes team announcing yesterday at his high school, where he graduated from high school, up in Livingston, New Jersey. But when you look at the poll numbers in New Jersey, it's not clear whether Chris Christie is running for president or running from New Jersey. He's become so unpopular, it's going to be hard for him to win his home state. Puerto Rico, meanwhile, joins Greece in in going bankrupt. But President Obama yesterday at the White House said the United States is not in a hurry to bail out either one of them. President Obama today will make a big announcement, one more step forward in normalizing relations with Cuba. The United States will, by the end of July, open our official embassy in Havana, and Cuba will open its official embassy by the same time here in Washington, D.C. A great move indeed. Secretary of State John Kerry expected to go to Havana for the opening of that embassy. And yesterday, President Obama announcing new overtime rules for employers around the country. That means that 5 million Americans will get a pay raise totaling $1.3 billion a year. Good move. All of that coming up, all of that you're going to want to talk about. So give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel will wear the proper protective equipment. This includes all personnel identified as staff, students, role players, VIPs, and support staff. Face, eyes, throat, and drawing protection is mandatory and should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario. Always check your mask prior to use to ensure there are no cracks and the mask is in safe working condition.
Should I put the water in there now? Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent? Yeah.
Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Show your hands. Help me. Show your hands. Back away.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing.
Just like on the street? or
Depends.
is
I
it like
mean,
a house?
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, unarmed mugging, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else that we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is, we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
USA, USA, yes, the USA women's team knocking off the total champion Germany with ease. Hey, hello everybody, what a great day, what a great game. Wednesday, July 1, here we go into a whole new month here. Great to see you today. On this Wednesday morning, we're here with you on your local progressive talk radio station, The Bill Press Show, with the best guests we can assemble with all the news of the day from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. That's where you find us. Just down the street from a sleepy, quiet U.S. Capitol this week because the House and the Senate are on their extended 4th of July break. We're just about 5 metro stops away from the White House, where I was there yesterday for President Obama and President Rousseff of Brazil and their joint news conference. A little news came out of that. And where the president today will make a big announcement regarding Cuba and the opening of a U.S. embassy down in Havana. Wherever the news is happening, we are there on top of it, letting you know what's going on, giving you our insights, the insights of our guests as to what it all means, and most importantly, giving you a chance to get involved in the conversation by giving us a call. 3 ways you can do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And, of course, the Republican stage got even more crowded yesterday with the entry of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie into the GOP sweepstakes, making it number 14. Now, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy leading up Team Press this morning. Hello, hello.
Hello, Bill.
Hey,
Here we are,
Wednesday.
on the eve of our celebratory 10th anniversary show.
That's right, man.
Yes.
You know, Scott, starting to getting ready for it.
Yeah, man.
Igor Volsky brought us in a bottle of vodka.
That's
yesterday.
right. Well, half a bottle of vodka.
Oh, no, you mean that's what's left?
Wait, did you not drink half of it?
No, I think it spilled. That's what happened.
It must
Yeah.
have spilled.
When I left yesterday, there was a full bottle.
It must have spilled.
When Igor arrived, there was a
You sure?
full bottle. Right. Jamie Benson's got your ticket on the phones here. He's ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And we couldn't find Cyprian Bolding this morning, so Monty Kensler was good enough to come in and be our videographer for the day. It is a very exciting time. President Obama yesterday at the news conference, he was asked, Jim Acosta from CNN, asked the president, he said, a lot of people are saying that last week, with getting the trade deal, getting the Supreme Court approval of ACA, getting Supreme Court approval of same-sex marriage, that last week was, and the flag coming down, that last week might have been your best week ever, Mr. President. What do you think? And he said, no, well, it was a good week, but not necessarily the best.
I will tell you, was marrying Michelle. That was a really good week. Malia and Sasha being born, excellent weeks.
Good you remember those.
Yeah. There was a game where I scored 27 points. That was a pretty good week.
I wanted to shout out, how about your golf game?
Yeah.
How'd you do on that one? We assume he was talking about basketball on that one, even though he didn't say. But it was an interesting news conference, and there was more out of it in terms of how the president how often he might like to have news conferences as well. We'll tell you about that all a little bit later when Hadas Gold comes in from Politico to talk media biz. David Jackson from USA Today joins us, and we'll have reporters in from The Hill and from the National Journal. And, of course, we will hear from you. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. All right, so we know that the prisoners in New York are all taken care of. One has been shot. One is in custody. David Sweat is the man who was captured live, and he is singing, man. He's telling the authorities everything he knows and everything about their escape from the Clinton Correctional Facility. A couple of things we know, just a roundup of a couple of different news sources where this is what he is telling police. He said that he split up from Richard Matt, the one who was shot by police, 5 days before he was caught because Matt was slowing him down. He says that Matt may have had food poisoning and he had severe blisters on his feet. He tells the district attorney that they began sawing through the steel walls of their cell back in January.
Wow.
And contrary to previous reports, they did not use power tools to do so. But they used saws and other tools that they had. And that Sweat made a dry run the night before their actual escape. He went as far as to actually emerging out of the manhole cover the night before they escaped, and then came back to his cell, went back to sleep, and went about his day the next day. He wanted to make sure that he could actually do it.
Unbelievable.
Can you imagine that? You get a taste of freedom and then you go back in?
Isn't that wild? He also said that they found the hunting cabin that they found shelter in, and were up in tree stands where hunters will go up in trees to shoot deer and things like that. And at one point they were up in a tree stand and the police went right by them because the tree cover was so thick in the woods that they were in, they couldn't even see up there. So we're getting some of the details, and it's crazy, man. I mean, the cops almost had them a couple of times.
What a movie!
I know, it's so thrilling.
It's such a movie. It's made
what's sad is why somebody with brains like that, couldn't be working for, I don't know, right? Google or
put it to good use.
Put it to good use.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
Donald Trump is not having a great week.
Put him in Congress. He's got more brains than half the members of
They'll get a lot of stuff done, that's for sure.
True. Donald Trump is not having a great week, Bill. We heard that NBC is canceling his TV show, The Apprentice. They're canceling all of their business dealings with him. Mexico is very mad with him because he said that Mexico sends rapists and criminals to the United States. We found out yesterday that the host of the Miss Universe pageant, which is owned by the Trump company, Thomas Roberts, said he will not be taking part in the Miss Universe pageant. This is about 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away at this point, the Miss Universe pageant. So they are scrambling. They don't have anywhere to show it on TV. They don't have a host. And Vice magazine put together all of the business that Trump could be losing for making making Mexico angry. He could lose as much as $78.5 million for his comments when you add everything up, the Miss Universe, the TV show, and all
but that doesn't mean anything to him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Just think of it this way. A bad week for Donald Trump is a good week for all the rest of us.
There you go. Talk about a quick turnaround. Monday, the actors Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner celebrated their 10-year wedding anniversary. And then yesterday, one day later, they announced that they were getting divorced. They've been married for 10 years, one of Hollywood's power couples. They said that it was just time to divorce. Quote, after much thought and careful consideration, we've made the difficult decision to divorce, they told People magazine in a joint statement.
Well, 10 years is a long time for Hollywood.
Yeah. Give them that. Give them that.
I'm telling you. He made it official yesterday. Yeah, there was some talk that Chris Christie might not run, but no doubt about it. He is in. And our question today to you is, what happened to Chris Christie? Did he miss his chance in 2012? Is he a serious threat in 2016? Can he get his momentum back? 866-55-PRESS. He went, made, we've given you the audio of every one of them when they jump in, and with Chris Christie yesterday, putting as much excitement as he can in his voice. Here he is.
We need to have strength and decision-making and authority back in the Oval Office, and that is why today I am proud to announce my candidacy for the Republican nomination for President of the United States of America.
All right. He says nobody else has said, I'm running for the Republican nomination. Everybody else says, I'm running for President of the United States. But he says, I'm running for the Republican nomination, which is true, by the way. And where he made the statement, Livingston High School, where he was elected class president 3 times, 3 different years, 3 times in a row. Livingston High School, of course, best known for Igor Volsky's high school, right? Not Chris Christie's, but Chris Christie's got he's trying to take the little limelight away from Igor yesterday, talking about his home school.
When I decided to make this announcement, there wasn't any choice. I had to come home, and Livingston is home for me.
Uh-huh. And here's what he promises us as the kind of candidate he's going to be.
I want to promise you just a few things. First, a campaign without spin or without pandering or focus group tested answers. You're going to get what I think, whether you like it or not, or whether it makes you cringe every once in a while or not.
All right. So there is Chris Christie. He is.
You want a candidate that's not careful and doesn't think through things? I'm your guy.
I am the one, indeed. So, but the funny thing is, and the New York Times points out this morning, it's unclear whether Chris Christie is running for president or running from New Jersey, because he is so unpopular in New Jersey today that, as the New York Times points out, the one state that he may have the hardest time winning were he to become the Republican nominee for president is his home state of New Jersey. Now, he used to be very, very popular. His popularity was up about 55% 4 years ago. Today, it is at 35% in his home state. 35% of New Jersey residents approve of the job he's doing as governor. 51% disapprove. And maybe it's because that he has spent half of his time in his second term. He had a good run for the first term, became a national figure. Remember, he was talked about for president in 2012. A lot of people wanted him to run, encouraged him to run. Instead, he backed Romney, and he ended up being the keynote speaker at the convention with that horrible speech that he gave. But he was at the top of his game in 2012. Then he was reelected by a landslide. And then since then, he has totally neglected his state. He has been, New York Times reports this morning, he has spent half of his time in his second term out of New Jersey, in Iowa, in New Hampshire, in South Carolina, or whatever. As a result, New Jersey is being run by the lieutenant governor today. His administration, people are leaving his administration in droves because they see that he's no longer interested in being governor. As a result, New Jersey today has an acting treasurer, they have an acting health commissioner, and they have an acting attorney general. He doesn't care.
Good job, New Jersey.
Yeah, and he's got 3 years left in his second term. His approval rating has fallen so low that today, I mentioned 35%, he actually polls lower than John Corzine, who was the previous Democratic governor that Christie beat and booted out of office, former senator and then Governor John Corzine, who is more popular today in New Jersey than Chris Christie is. And it looks like New Jersey doesn't care, and he doesn't care about New Jersey anymore. Reporters ask him why, he sort of became famous, not necessarily popular, but also popular, I guess, from these town hall meetings he would have. And he'd go out and confront teachers and just take people on with all of that
Sit down, shut up,
bombast and all that, being that bully. And reporters said, why don't you do those anymore? And his answer was, quote, I got tired of it. I'll just be honest with you. I got tired of it, so I didn't do it. But at the same time, he was holding town halls in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and in South Carolina. Yeah, indeed. And if you look at Chris Christie in 2012, again, his popularity was 55%. Today, his disapproval rating nationwide is about 55%. So the question is, why is he doing it? I honestly thought that Chris Christie would be a major, major threat to Democrats if he ran in 2016. But that's before he started to plummet. And now, with the bridge, of course, and with the budget problems in New Jersey, and with his unpopularity in New Jersey, I don't think he's a factor at all. He says once he starts running, people like his style, he'll get it back. All right. Do you think it'll work? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. Chris Christie, is he a threat in 2016? Did he miss the boat by not running in 2012? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley's Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The Jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see, and you have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle? Sorry? A place called the Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. And we went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law, so we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour now, taking a look at Chris Christie. Fox News reporting actually this morning that Christie's numbers have plummeted down to 30% approval rating in his home state of New Jersey. Again, is he running for president or running from New Jersey? And why is he running? Well, he told us, remember yesterday, we didn't make this up, in his video announcing for president. This put out before his news conference. Chris Christie tells us why.
I get accused a lot of times of being too blunt and too direct and saying what's on my mind just a little bit too loudly. I have an Irish father and I had a Sicilian mother. Now, for those of you hooting, you know what that means, right? My mom was the one who set the rules and set the tone.
Yeah.
No suffering in silence.
Yeah.
If you got a problem, tell me.
Yeah.
She would tell us every time she had a problem.
Yeah.
To the point where we were just like, Mom, do we have to hear this? And she'd say, yes, I need to get it off my chest now.
Right. All right.
There will be no deathbed.
There it is. I had a loudmouth mom. That's why I'm a loudmouth. Vote for me. David's out in Sacramento, California. David, what do you say?
How you doing, Bill?
Hey, good.
Hey, I have something funny, but I'm going to say my last point on the something funny thing. Hey, people really think that these Republicans are really going to get voted in? I mean, come on. You really know that the younger generation is this much that stupid to put up with this party. People don't like this party. They don't stand for anything other than against gay marriage, medical marijuana. I mean, it's just so pathetic that this party is not, it's just don't have what it takes. And they're just basically trying to get a book deal or a stupid show or reality show. By the way, if I don't mind, hey, did you see a box? Did you see people in the background? Did you see them passing around a box of Krispy Kreme donuts and they're eating it while he was actually standing at
No, I didn't see that, but I wouldn't be surprised. No, but David, look, I think you're right. I don't think any one of the 14 has a chance in hell to be president.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court, the same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone, and there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. It's the first day of July, 2015. And this is The Bill Press Show. You are part of it, and good to have you part of it. We are here in Washington, D.C., our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America, the good men and women of the Laborers Union. Under President Terry O'Sullivan, building a better America, you bet. That's where you can find out more about them at their website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, LIUNAbuildsamerica.org. Talking about Chris Christie jumping in yesterday. Once outside of Mitt Romney, I guess, the most popular, maybe even more than Mitt Romney, because he ended up not running, the most popular potential Republican candidate for president. That's when he was first elected as governor of New Jersey. And now he couldn't get reelected as governor of New Jersey. His approval rating, according to Fox News, down to 30%. CNN, by the way, is out today, it just so happens, with their poll nationwide on the Republican presidential candidates, which relates to what we're talking about, and is very, very interesting because the number one in the no surprise, number one is Jeb Bush with 19%, and that's up from 13% the last time they took a poll, which was in May. But number two is, guess who? Donald Trump.
What is wrong with you people?
At 12%.
What is wrong with the 12% of people?
He was 3% in the last poll. He's gone up since he made his announcement last week. He's gone up 9 points. He is at 12%.
I've seen people who say things like, "Oh, we love the no-nonsense delivery of Donald Trump." Are you crazy? crazy?
It's all nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
But rounding out the top 5 on the CNN poll, Mike Huckabee in 3rd place, and then 4th and 5th, tied at 7%, are Ben Carson and Rand Paul. Note, Marco Rubio has fallen out of the top 5. He was at 10%, now he's down at 6. I'm sorry, he was at 14%, now he's down at 6. Scott Walker has dropped out of the top 5. He was at 10, now he's down at 6. Ted Cruz, not in the top 5. And our boy of the hour, Chris Christie, 3%. No, that's before he announced yesterday. But I'll tell you one thing. He's not going to be at 12% today. Yeah. Christie, can he get that momentum back? James is up in Gasport, New York. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us. What do you say?
Morning, Bill.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
I always like your show.
Well, thank you.
I'm interested about Christie. Anybody that yells at people, especially like when they want to ask him a question. Now, can you imagine this guy? He's a governor. He suppressed the people in New Jersey, probably over half the majority, in percentage ratings. And I'm surprised that the citizens in that state don't even call out for an impeachment for him. And then when he talks about, well, my mother was a Sicilian. I'm a second generation of both Sicilian family. Please don't mock me out or any Sicilians or Italians, when he says about temperament.
Yeah, I don't know how many people could get away with that, but you make a good point, James, about, basically, he has come to, he got his fame or notoriety out of yelling at people,
Yeah.
Which, and particularly, by the way, what really offended me, yelling at teachers. Because I think teachers are, first of all, I think teachers do the most important jobs in America, hands down. And they also work under very, very difficult conditions and get very little pay for it. And for him to attack teachers, to me, it's like attacking the flag and motherhood and apple pie. So Chris Christie, we'll give him his chance and let's see how he does. But I think his time has come and gone. Meanwhile, let's talk about the number 2 guy among the Republicans, Donald Trump. So yes, with his announcement last week, which was such a racist rant, as one of my conservative friends called it, and we talked about it last week, where he's saying he's going to build that bigger fence at the border because Mexico is sending its worst people up here, all the rapists and the murderers and the drug dealers. They're the people who are coming across the border. So there's one place that he still has a home, and not on NBC anymore, but he's got a home on Fox News.
Oh, yeah.
They'll have him on anytime, and they've been defending him on every show, including Fox and Friends, which we watch here in the morning. So last night he was on with Bill O'Reilly, of course, and O'Reilly's going to say, gives him a chance. Okay, is there anything you want to take back about all that stuff you said about immigrants at the border?
No, because it's totally accurate, and you should have let it play a little bit longer because it really covers it actually even a little bit better, but it's totally accurate. The border is a disaster, Bill. People are pouring in, and I mean illegal people, illegal immigrants, and they're pouring in. 300 and some odd thousand are in your state jails right now, according to Homeland Security. I have the report right here. Homeland Security, over 300,000 are in between the state and federal jails and penitentiaries. In terms of rape, this is an amazing statistic. 80% of Central American women and girls are raped crossing into the U.S. Now, 80%. It's hard to believe even.
I don't believe a thing Donald Trump says.
No.
I don't believe a thing he says. But despite all those comments, don't get him wrong. He still loves Mexicans.
I love Mexican people. I have a tremendous relationship. I also respect Mexico. But Mexico's doing a tremendous number against the United States. What they're doing to us in trade, first of all, they're killing us at the border. Second of all, Bill, what they're doing to us in trade is unbelievable. They're taking our jobs, they're taking our manufacturing, and they're taking our money. And now, I'm not angry at Mexico, because, frankly, their representatives and leaders are smarter than ours. I'm angry at our country for having such bad negotiators and such bad leaders.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
He's just making this up as he goes along. You know
totally
that,
makes
right?
it up.
I mean, this is so transparent.
I mean, but his statement that I love Mexicans reminds me of the White House Correspondents' Dinner a few years back when he was sitting in the audience and Seth Meyers said, well, Donald Trump says he loves blacks. Now, unless the blacks are a white family, I think he's mistaken.
Yeah, this was he went out. He said the blacks love me because he got accused of saying some racist things, and he walked it back and said, "Oh no, the blacks love me."
Right. Mm-hmm.
The Mexicans love me.
But we know he was dumped by NBC and the Miss Universe pageant, and also dumped by Univision.
Yeah.
Well, Donald Trump, he's fighting back, he said yesterday on Bill O'Reilly.
I just sued Univision for $500 million. It was just filed. The papers were just filed. So that'll be interesting to see how that, because Univision, I have a signed contract for 5 years on the pageants. They have no right to terminate, and they terminated. And they didn't even send me a letter. They terminated with a PR statement. So they called me also, and...
Well, we'll see how that plays out. Yeah. Right.
Good luck.
You know what? Again, that's just a publicity stunt. Of
course
right?
it is.
He filed this paper. Of course. God, I'm telling you. Yes, but we laugh. We laugh. But he's holding his own. More than holding his own, he has now jumped up to second only to Jeb Bush in the among the 14 Republican candidates for president. The Trump bump continues. David Jackson on more serious matters down at the White House today. Ready to join us, covers the White House for USA Today. He's coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 14 minutes now before the top of the hour, first day of July 2015 on a Wednesday. And yesterday, boy, we were all so pleased at the White House in the East Room with President Obama. There's a joint news conference with the president of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff, when the president says this is just going to be the first of many, 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 many more news conferences he wants to hold.
I love press conferences. It's my press team that's always holding me back. I want to talk to you guys every day. Sorry, Josh.
Well, what do you say? David Jackson covers White House in USA Today.
Nothing like selling your press secretary right down the river.
Yeah, man.
David, there's not one person in the room who believed that, right?
No. It was a pure joke and expressed as such and taken as such.
Yeah, exactly. How long's it been since we had the last Obama news conference?
Oh, good Lord, months. I mean, it's been quite some time. Although I do expect we'll get one pretty soon, but it's been a long time.
I didn't check my notebooks or records. We could have asked Mark Knoller, I guess, but I don't remember one since the end of last year.
I think he's had one earlier this year, but
yeah,
I don't remember the context. It's funny. It's been that long ago where I can't even remember it.
I know exactly. So there's a lot going on at the White House. A lot of news. President didn't show much love for Greece or Puerto Rico yesterday, did he?
No, not at all. Well, Puerto Rico, they're trying to. It's interesting. They're trying to talk less about Puerto Rico than about Greece. I guess of course they can't avoid the topic of Greece, but they're downplaying the idea, saying it's going to have some impact in Europe, but it's going to have less impact here, and at least publicly they're expecting confidence that something's going to get worked out. As far as Puerto Rico, they're dodging questions as much as they can. Although they have said that there won't be any kind of bailout for them. So
yeah, no bailout. I guess it looks like where they're trying to, but Congress would have to do it, right? Give them the status where they could declare bankruptcy, like Detroit did.
Yeah, it's probably going to take some kind of congressional legislation, but it's that could wind up being a bigger mess than Greece. Another thing about Puerto Rico, Bill, someone pointed out to me last night. The last couple of cycles, presidential candidates have made a habit of going to Puerto Rico to pick up some delegate support. I don't think we'll be seeing that this time around.
Yeah, no, probably not. Good point. What's the latest on the Iran negotiations?
They were formally pushed back last night. The deadline was Tuesday, midnight, 7 hours ago. The negotiations in Vienna formally pushed it back a week, so I guess we'll reconnoiter here July. That would be July 8th, next Tuesday, or July 7th, and then we'll just try it again. They feel like they're close, but there's also some major sticking points. But they want, one way or another, I think most people feel like the real deadline, if you will, is July 9th, because that's the day. If they don't get the agreement to Congress by July 9th, then the 30-day period that Congress has to review the agreement will fall to the August recess, so it'll be September before Congress can sign off on it. So,
but Obama's got a lot riding on this, doesn't he?
Very much so. I mean, he's made Iran a big project ever since his campaign. He first started talking about establishing some kind of or establishing better relations with Iran as far back as 2007. He feels like it's a good opportunity to sign an agreement with Iran that will prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon, and I think he's determined to see it through. Secretary of State John Kerry also has a lot invested in this, and I think they're really determined to try to get some sort of an agreement. But if Iran doesn't give much more on terms of allowing inspections of its nuclear facilities and also calling and waiting for more delayed reduction of sanctions, I'm afraid that this thing may fall by the wayside.
David Jackson, our guest, covers the White House for USA Today. The president making a big announcement this week about overtime pay. What prompted that? The timing, I thought, was curious.
Well, I think they wanted to wait until after the trade thing, quite frankly. Before the July 4th holiday, some of the big news events that we've seen, the Supreme Court decisions and the trade fiasco, difficulty of getting the trade package through Congress, pushed a lot of things back. And this thing, I think, has been in the works for more than a year, but I think it's been ready for several weeks now. They just decided to roll it out now in the wake of all of the news that happened last week and over the last 10 days. So I felt like it was a good time for it.
Right. It's sort of
strike while the iron's hot, if you will.
Yeah, right. And today, the president making another big announcement in the Rose Garden about Cuba.
That's the same kind of deal. Strike while the iron's hot. They're going to announce that the United States and Cuba will reestablish embassies in each other's capital cities. Now, this isn't a formal reestablishment of relations. It's just another step on the road, but it's a pretty important step. That we'll have the U.S. will appoint an ambassador to Cuba, and Cuba will appoint an ambassador to the United States, and those guys will presumably work on some of the other remaining issues that the United States and Cuba have.
Yeah, and I've read that, of course, the president will tell us today, I guess, that they hope to get this done by the end of July, and that Secretary of State John Kerry may even go to Havana for the opening.
I think that's the plan, yes, for Kerry to go, which is going to be interesting because you talk about a guy whose plate is full. John Kerry will also be talking about the reopening of the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. He's going to do it from Vienna on the sidelines of the nuclear negotiations.
Is that right?
He's a very busy fellow.
Right. I thought it was interesting yesterday in the news conference with President Rousseff that they both referenced, President Obama said, and I brought her up to date on the latest in our negotiations with Cuba, and he was sort of dropping a hint, right, that they were about to make a big announcement.
I totally miss it. Where this all came from, because it broke about 6 o'clock last night.
No, when he said that, and I thought, I wonder what the latest is. And then next thing we knew, obviously he told her we're going to open our embassy by the end of the month.
That's right.
Yeah.
There was about 3 weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, there was a rumor that this announcement was going to be made, but it got shot down pretty quickly. But they still had some things to do on the agreement, so obviously they got those issues resolved.
Well, my bet is Obama goes there before he leaves office.
Oh, well, yeah, December 16, though. That's not
yeah, exactly.
He'll go to Cuba the way Clinton went to Vietnam. He'll do it after the next presidential election.
Mm-hmm. What's up with the president's travel this week? I guess today off to Nashville and then tomorrow to Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's going to Tennessee today to talk about health care and to promote the health care law, especially in light of the Supreme Court decision last week, but also to try to pressure Republican states into adopting this Medicaid expansion. I think there are about 20 states that have refused to sign on to that plan. One of them is Tennessee. The Republican governor in Tennessee actually wants the Medicaid expansion, but his legislature rejected it, and I think President Obama will highlight that and basically accuse the Republicans of playing politics when it comes to Medicaid funding.
And Wisconsin is...
Wisconsin, he's going to talk the details of the overtime thing. That's interesting, the way that story spilled out, too, because Thursday was always they were going to plan to roll out the new overtime rules on Thursday as he visited Wisconsin, but someone got a hold of the plan early, so the White House went ahead and made the announcement yesterday. But President Obama is going to talk about it in detail in Wisconsin. The thing I'm looking forward to on that trip is I'm wondering if he's going to take yet another poke at Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, because he seems to like to do that.
Oh, yeah. No, that'd be a good opportunity to do so,
right.
too. All right. Well, we'll see you in the Rose Garden
for
Cuba
I'll
a little
be there,
bit later.
Bill.
Hey, thanks,
sir.
David. Thanks so much. David
Thank
Jackson, great job covering the White House for USA Today, usatoday.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 3 minutes before the top of the hour, more on the president's new overtime announcement at the top of the next hour, Peter.
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn.
Yes.
Bernie Sanders continues to chug right along towards the Democratic nomination. It turns out he's got one more supporter, as Larry Cohen, our good friend who's been here on the show many times.
Great labor leader.
Outgoing president of the Communications Workers of America told the Huffington Post that he is endorsing Bernie Sanders. He's going to serve as an unpaid volunteer, stumping for Sanders as he seeks the Democratic nomination.
You know what? That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big endorsement for Bernie Sanders.
He said one of the reasons that he went that way was Hillary Clinton's equivocation on granting Obama the fast-track authority.
She disappointed a lot of people by not standing with organized labor on that. And so good. Larry Cohen with Bernie Sanders. Go, Bernie, go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere.
In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
USA women advanced to the finals yesterday, defeating Germany with ease. The #1 team, too. Hey, hello, everybody. Here we go on Wednesday, July 1. With our second hour of the Bill Press Show here on your local progressive talk radio station. Hello, hello, hello. Good to join you in Radioland. Don't forget, there are two great apps. If you don't have a progressive radio station near you, that doesn't mean you're out of luck. Download the app TuneIn app or iHeartRadio, and you can find us there wherever you happen to be on the radio, on your electronic device, anywhere in this country. We're also here with you nationwide on Free Speech TV. Good to see you today. And worldwide on our video stream, of course, youtube.com/talker, TAWKR-TV. There's a lot going on today, a lot to talk about. We'll get into all of it, whether the news is happening here in Washington, around the country, or around the globe. We're on top of it. We'll tell you what's going on, and you tell us what it means to you. You can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS or sending us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Takes a whole team to bring you the news every day, and we've got a good team here with Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy leading it up.
Bill, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Good.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Holiday weekend coming up, man.
It is the eve, and most importantly, right here on Bill Press and Friends, the eve of our big 10th anniversary show.
10 years, man.
Can't believe it.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
As long as I ever held a job.
Same here.
10 good years.
10 damn good years.
Yeah, right. Celebrate that with all of you tomorrow. You're welcome to the celebration, by the way. No tickets, no reservations required. Doesn't cost you anything.
Go out tonight, get yourself a nice bottle of champagne.
Yes.
Meet us right back here tomorrow. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, that's the least you could do.
Yeah, come on.
All right. Now you could send us money too. But, Jamie Benson is here with your calls, for your calls, to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Monty Kensler is our videographer for the day, keeping us looking good on Free Speech and on Talker TV. And I got it. How about the U.S. women's team? I mean, here's Germany, clearly rated, regarded as the #1 best women's team in the world.
Yeah.
And USA, boom.
It was a struggle. It was a struggle.
It was a good game, though.
Close game that first half. USA got a lucky break on a penalty kick.
That penalty kick.
Well, there were two penalty kicks in question here. Number one, the Germans had a chance.
Yes.
And she missed the penalty kick. They were 12. That was in the second half. They were 12 for 12 on penalty kicks before that kick last night.
Wow.
And she missed it wide left. And then there was a controversial call about whether or not it was a foul on the U.S. team. But they called it a foul, and she got a penalty kick, which she delivered on, and then another beautiful goal around 80 minutes in. Made it 2-0. So they really turned it on there towards the end.
Yeah, Abby Wambach says after the game, of course, it's a team effort.
Team win all the way around, no matter how you look at it. Carly Lloyd, obviously being the player of our tournament right now, but we're going to need her to put together another performance in order to win this thing.
Do we know who they're going to play in the final yet?
It's going to be either England or
Japan.
Yeah, England or Japan.
Right. And that game is next weekend, or
no? It's the final. The final is going to be this weekend. I'm not sure when the Japan-England game is.
The semifinal is. Yeah. Very, very exciting though. Great credit to the United States. It makes us all proud.
Yeah, man.
We're going to talk overtime here with Tim Devaney from The Hill here at the top of the hour. Hadas Gold from Politico joins us at the half hour, and reporters from National Journal and others. And they're coming up in the next hour. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. A very special night for some special Girl Scouts last night.
Yes.
What a place to camp out. They camped out in one of our most historic national parks. The White House.
The White House. Back lawn of the White House.
Lawn of the White House. Tents were set up, and a select number of Girl Scouts showed up. They're there right now. They camped out overnight and slept on the lawn of the White House.
Isn't that fun?
How cool is that? Although there was a pretty nasty storm that came through here last night. I'm not sure how they held up.
That was one of the fiercest storms I can remember.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly.
Here last night about 1 o'clock in the morning. Man,
the thunder was amazing.
The wind. But
the lightning.
And the lightning.
I'm telling you.
The tents were set up. Michelle Obama and President Barack Obama came out last night at dusk to talk to the girls and chatted with them for a little bit. And then he said, I got to get back inside. I got to go get back to work. And there he went. But, they slept there last night. Isn't that cool? The pictures coming out of there are remarkable. It's all these tents set up right in the lawn.
I was worried about the fox.
No, that's right.
White House fox.
You got to be careful, man. One thing you don't want to do in Tallahassee is get in a fight over gumbo, Bill. That's exactly what happened to a man named Caleb Joshua Halley. He's a former Florida State University mascot. He now works at a restaurant called Buddy's Seafood Market, and he got in a fight with another cook at the restaurant, 26-year-old Orlando Thompson. And Orlando Thompson was so serious about the spices that go into the gumbo that he stabbed Joshua Halley, and he died.
No.
They got in a fight over the gumbo recipe, and he felt so strongly about it, he took him down. He has been charged with murder.
I like gumbo, but it's not worth dying for.
I've had some gumbos that are worth dying for. I've had some gumbos that are worth dying for. I'll say that. And the holiday weekend is coming up. 4th of July here in Washington, D.C. is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's great. You want to get a good look at the fireworks, you can do it right here in Washington. But one thing you can't do is fly a drone. The FAA put out a video yesterday reminding people that if you come here to watch the fireworks, do not fly your drone. Because a lot of people, and last year this was a big thing where people flew their drones up into the fireworks, not just here, but everywhere.
Yeah.
You could get a good, bird's eye view of the fireworks going off. The FAA is reminding people, do not do it. In fact, they said leave your drone at home. If they even see drones on the nation's capital lawn, there on the mall, you will get in trouble. So leave them at home.
It's a good idea to leave your drones at home when you're coming to Washington.
Yes.
Or anywhere, actually. 13 minutes after the hour now. Yes, indeed, President Obama making news this week with a big step to help American working families, announcing proposing a change in overtime rules. Tim Devaney covers these issues for The Hill, the great Hill newspaper, joining us on our newsline this morning. Hey, Tim, good morning. Good to have you with us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on the show, and congrats on 10 years.
How about it? Man. Yeah, we made it. I don't know how many more we've got in us, but we got Hey, so, Tim, first of all, how long have the existing rules been in place, and what's the difference between the way the rules are now and what the Obama administration is proposing?
Yeah, so the existing rules have been in place, or basically the overtime threshold. It hasn't been raised for more than a decade. The last time it was changed was in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, it hadn't been raised since the 1970s. So clearly there's been a lot of long gaps in addressing this rule. And one of the things the Labor Department's hoping to avoid right now is these long gaps. And so going forward, they're trying to tie it to inflation.
Oh, I see. Right. And under the existing rules, before they change, who qualifies for overtime?
Yeah, so currently, anybody who makes less than $24,000 a year, it's actually $23,660 a year. Anybody who makes less than that would qualify automatically for overtime if they work more than 40 hours in a week. So you get paid time and a half for those extra hours you work. Anybody who works more than that, a lot of workers don't qualify if their companies can argue that they have a managerial role. So some workers might, but if you're working at McDonald's and you're a shift supervisor and you're making $25,000 a year, they could argue that you shouldn't be getting paid overtime
because you're a manager, you're a supervisor, whatever.
Exactly, and so the question here is, who's considered a manager and who's not, and that's where it gets really dicey.
Right. All right. So $24,000 under existing rules. Once if the new regulations, if and when they go into effect, what's the difference? What's the change?
Yeah, so the new overtime rules will raise pay for nearly 5 million middle-class and low-wage workers who are in less than $50,000 a year. So basically anybody, and it's going to more than double the threshold of workers who qualify. So instead of only instead of the only people who qualify being those who make up to $24,000, anybody who makes up to $50,000 will qualify. And that's a huge step for a lot of middle class workers who make maybe $30,000 or $40,000. But I mean, honestly, it's one of those things that if you don't follow this very closely, you just assume that everybody qualifies for overtime.
Yeah.
And when you think about the fact that you may be a person who makes $30,000 or $40,000, you might not be lower class, you might not be absolutely poor, but anytime somebody works more than 40 hours in a week, you would expect that you get paid overtime. So until you start really looking into this, it's almost shocking that anybody wouldn't be paid. And I guess you can assume that somebody who's a manager, you can assume that they would be that they might be exempt, but when you look into the details of the way that they go around exempting people who make maybe $25,000, it's pretty shocking.
So right. So when you go from $24,000 to $50,000, and then what about the managerial exemption at $50,000? Does that still exist? If you're a manager, even if you're making $50,000, you don't get it?
Yeah, so I mean, my understanding is that everything stays the same, other than just raising the threshold. So basically, if you make up to, let me get the exact number, it's $50,440. So if you make that amount or less, if you make less than that amount, you would automatically qualify. If you make more than that amount, then you could potentially still qualify if you're just a regular worker. But they probably could argue, if they can find a way to argue that you have managerial duties, then you might not qualify.
All right. Now, what happens to these proposed regulations? Do they automatically take effect? Does Congress have to approve them? What's next?
Yeah, so that's the part where it gets confusing, because a lot of people think big announcements. Tomorrow when I show up to work, I'm going to be making, I'm going to be getting time and a half, or I guess it's Tuesday, so hopefully nobody's already worked 40 hours in a week. Or Wednesday. But anyways, the thing to keep in mind here is that because it's a proposed rule, it has to go through a very long process, and it will be months and possibly years before it goes into effect. This rule, the administration is trying to push it through, so it will probably it could potentially go into effect in January 2016. But most rules in general, it could take a couple of years to go through the process, because what happens is first they propose the rule, and they've been working on this proposed rule for almost a year and a half, and then this is the first time the public's seen it. Now you have to go through a comment period of I believe it's 60 or 90 days, something like that. I don't know if they've announced it yet. Once you get past that comment period, they have to go through all the comments, respond to all the comments. It's all these nitty-gritty things that they have to do, but it takes a while before they issue a final rule. So that final rule, I'd be surprised if it's issued before 2016. Then after they issue that, they still have to say, but it's not going to go into effect the day they issue it. They have to say, it's a few months out or a year out before it goes into effect. So all I can tell you is that the Obama administration said they want the rule to be in effect at some point in 2016.
All right, you got it. And Congress, no role at all for Congress, right?
And there's no role for Congress. I mean, Congress, as long as it's controlled by Republicans, they're pretty upset about this rule. So I imagine that they'll be holding hearings, talking about it, and they might try to introduce legislation that would repeal it. But it's the same thing that they've been doing before, where maybe the Senate and the House both vote on legislation that would repeal it, but then Obama vetoes it. So there's not much Congress can do at this point.
No, but it's a pay raise as proposed for 5 million American workers. Tim Devaney covering this for The Hill, thehill.com. Thanks, Tim. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, here we go. Yes, indeed. That's good. The Labor Secretary yesterday, Tom Perez, said this is about $1.3 billion a year into middle-class workers' pocketbooks. That's big deal.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand river red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, make it 26. Hadas Gold, media reporter for Politico, joins us at the half hour. We haven't had a chance to wade through them all yet, but about 3,000 additional emails were released by the State Department last night. Emails not previously released again from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to various members of her world. And they're kind of weird. I don't know what impact this will have on her candidacy. But first of all, her relationship with former Bill Clinton aide, Sidney Blumenthal, has been the subject of a lot of talk and a lot of controversy because he was... She tried to get him a job in the State Department, and the Obama administration said, no way, no how. You're Secretary of State. You ain't hiring Sid Blumenthal. But she made him her unofficial advisor on Libya. And it turns out from these emails on a lot of other stuff, on climate change, on what was happening, on who's going to be the new president of the European Union. And she was in constant contact with him on a whole variety of issues. It was not just what was originally called unsolicited advice from Sidney Blumenthal. She was asking him for his advice on a lot of stuff. And there's also other crazy stuff. I mean, pretty clearly, she was not, at least in the beginning, real close to the Obama White House. She talked about, she showed up twice at the White House for meetings that she'd been invited to turn and found out the meetings were canceled.
Whoops.
She didn't find out until she got there. And so she emails back, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
She talks about one day, she's driving into work, she hears on the radio there's a cabinet meeting. And she emails somebody saying, what? I just heard on the radio there's a cabinet meeting. She's the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
And she
I
says,
heard on the radio there's a cabinet.
I heard on the radio. And can I get invited? Can I go?
Maybe she was listening to this show, by the way.
It could have been, right. And by the way, the strangest to me is that she emails John Podesta, who is now her campaign chairman, then just a friend and advisor, and tells John Podesta that he should wear socks when he goes to bed to keep his feet warm.
Perfect sense.
But I find, first of all, I have a real thing about people who wear socks to bed anyhow. But the idea that you would get to that level of advice to an aide, I mean, give me a break, Mom.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women.
and we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada! What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow, CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour. It's the first day of July. How about it? Happy summer. July. Doesn't feel like it, though. July 1, 2015. The Bill Press Show. We're here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill. Congress may be out of town. We're not yet. And we're brought to you today by the International Association of Machinists, the good men and women of the Machinists Union under President Tom Buffenbarger. They are sharpening America's edge on the global economy every day, you bet. And you can find out more about their good work at their website, goiam.org. On the labor front, too, by the way, we reported earlier that Huffington Post is reporting today that the longtime head of the Communication Workers Union recently stepped down. Larry Cohen announced, told Huffington Post exclusively that he is going to be has endorsed, and will be working as a volunteer campaigner for Bernie Sanders. He said he just got disgusted with the fact that Hillary wouldn't take a stand on the free trade agreement, wouldn't come out against it, and so he is all the way with Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn. Well, on the media front, lots going on today. Donald Trump announcing yesterday that he is not going to take it lying down. Univision and MS and NBC may drop the Miss Universe tournament, but he's fighting back. Here he is on Bill O'Reilly last night.
I just sued Univision for $500 million. It was just filed. The papers were just filed. So that'll be interesting to see how that, because Univision, I have a signed contract for 5 years on the pageants. They have no right to terminate, and they terminated. And they didn't even send me a letter. They terminated with a PR statement. So they called me also, and one of the top people at Univision, so apologetic. Donald, we shouldn't be doing this. I know that.
Yeah, right.
So this is right up his playbook.
Oh, it
really is.
Indeed. Yeah, well, a big media star like that keeps people like Hadas Gold busy. She's a media reporter for Politico, joining us in studio this morning. Hadas, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah. I'm, pardon me if I'm kind of sort of blinking like this because there's a big flash coming from that side of the table every time you hold your left hand up. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That big rock on your finger.
She's iced
there.
out today, man.
Yeah,
My
is
goodness.
she ever? Yeah.
I always ride with bling, what
Nice.
can you say?
So this just happened, right?
Happened on Sunday.
Just Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Congratulations.
great. Yeah, but you guys have known each other for a little while, huh?
Yeah, I mean, after he met you, that's when I knew that we could continue
Is that it?
in our relationship.
You
yeah.
gave the blessing?
He
I
gave
did.
the blessing.
Okay, it's important.
We ran
It's
into
a rite of passage in D.C.
we ran into each other at the
Diplomat.
Diplomat. The
nice.
Diplomat there on 14th Street one evening. Yeah, enjoyed meeting him. So congratulations.
Thank
again.
you.
That's great. You should have talked to Peter and I, before you
some
got
advice.
engaged. Give you some advice. So should have talked to Peter and me. I guess I should
Maybe
say.
you guys could be our premarital counselors.
Yeah. Bring him in here one morning.
That's it.
We'll chat.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk.
All right. Now,
I'll tell you, it's all downhill from here. I'm kidding.
Where's your wife?
all right. So Donald Trump. I
Yes.
mean, what's going on? I mean, he's the developer. He's the golf course manager. He's the media star, and he's the politician. Right?
Yeah. This is, I mean, if you look at it, this is almost like I don't want to say it's necessarily a stunt on Univision's part as well, but it's kind of a stunt on both ends because Univision is taking a stand on Donald Trump's comments on immigrants in Mexico, and Donald Trump is taking a publicity stand trying to just, get more attention for what he's doing. The lawsuit that they posted last night shed some light into the contract or the agreement that Univision and Donald Trump had. And it included licensing fees, which Univision has decided to just pay outright, but not necessarily broadcast the show.
Oh.
So they have paid, I think it's $13.5 million to Donald Trump, which were their licensing fees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question that this lawsuit will answer is whether they're still obligated to broadcast the show, despite the fact that, the way I was reading it, actually, one of the ways that they could terminate the contract is if they just didn't pay the licensing fees. So I'm I'm not sure how they're going to handle that, but Donald Trump is, suing for $500 million is a very large number. I think it's like the GDP of several small countries put together. And I mean, he should be angry. His show that was supposed to be broadcast in 2 weeks is no longer going to be broadcast, but it also works for him to continue his stand in immigration. He's also planning to sue NBC, which is also not going to be broadcasting.
I was going to ask you about that because I remember originally he said that he was thinking he might sue NBC, but
he probably will. But Univision was the first target, and because Univision has been the most adamant about his stances about his comments about Mexicans and immigrations, because you should remember that Univision has been very open in how they feel about immigration reform. It's kind of one subject that they very clearly stand up and say that their top anchors are Jorge Ramos and those types. They say, we believe in immigration reform. and it's very clear how they feel. So they're not going to let somebody like Donald Trump make the comments he made, get away with it pretty much. And also, in the lawsuit, Donald Trump says that a Univision executive called him, the same guy who he claims apologized, which Univision says nobody apologized, and told him that they had been inundated with calls after Donald Trump had made his comments, and that they couldn't feasibly get any sponsors or viewers for the Miss Universe pageant if they continued, and it wasn't worth the publicity disaster.
Yeah. By the way, it's hard to believe that all of this controversy is around the Miss Universe.
Right, it really is.
I mean, we're not talking...
There's so much wrong with this story.
I know. We're not talking the NewsHour.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's even mentioning the show. It could have been like a, cooking show that Donald Trump had. It doesn't really matter what it was, although that is significant in that Miss Mexico has already pulled out.
Yes.
So you might be seeing that's the other thing that might be a problem. The pageant's going to go on, whether it's broadcast. It'll probably be broadcast online, and I'm sure some other channel maybe will pick it up. But if enough of these women and their sponsors pull out, then you have an issue, because if all of Latin America leaves, then you're missing half the quarter of the world.
Of course. Well, meanwhile, the moderator, the host,
have pulled out as well.
Who's going to host this?
Thomas Roberts, right?
Donald Trump.
You know what? I can see that happening.
Let me see.
You should host. What's your calendar looking like?
I was just going to say, what date is it? I'm going to check my calendar here. I might be available. That $13.5 million they had to pay, whatever it is.
Do that for half the price.
I'll do it for half the price, right? Yeah. So the whole thing could fall apart. But this really plays into Trump's hands.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, Trump wants to always be in the headlines, no matter what reason. And I can tell you that on our blog, he has been on our blog for the past, 5 days straight. So he's just going to keep this going. He's a master of publicity. I've heard people say that he's not necessarily the best businessman, but he's the best PR manager you could ever have.
Totally.
So he'll just keep this going. Univision says that they plan to fight the lawsuit completely, that it's on, untenable legal grounds, and that there's absolutely no right or reason to it. So they plan on taking it as well, and the fun will continue.
The thing about this, though, that it's like with every fiber of me, I hate talking about it. I hate giving him that legitimacy. But at the same time, there are 2 polls out. The CNN poll.
He's high up there.
He's in second place. And
second
place. And there's another poll. I believe it's a Quinnipiac poll.
Not just in the top 10.
Right. Second place.
No, okay. So
and then there's another one where he's in second place.
I was just in New Hampshire last week, and I was talking to some New Hampshire voters, and they brought up Trump on their own. I was at Marco Rubio events, and they brought up Trump on their own, and how much they liked him. And this wasn't like, these weren't, crazy people who don't know. These are people who are attending a very early event for a very real candidate, know what they're talking about, and they said, we know that he is outrageous, right? But they look at him and they say, he didn't make $9 billion for nothing. Imagine what he would do for like the Pentagon contracting system or something like that. And they see him as a savvy businessman who can come in and shake things up and get things done. But they were very aware of the fact that he wasn't going to be the nominee. I was talking to one man in particular who's actually a former New Hampshire, the state level legislator. He was a legislator there. And he was saying he probably won't be the nominee. I get it. But I like how he's pushing the rest of the field, that he'll bring up things that will force them to talk about certain things, that, he'll be like an energizing force in this race. So that's why that and name ID is probably why he's so up high in the polls.
Nobody's talking about canceling The Apprentice. I guess, is that why he would sue NBC?
No, so he will no longer host The Apprentice. He'll no longer. The Apprentice is kind of a separate
thing. As a presidential candidate, he can't.
No,
really.
he can't.
Yeah.
But NBC is not going to air Miss Universe anymore, which is a huge loss. So he will likely also be, like I said, suing them. But The Apprentice thing is a separate issue.
But he doesn't have to worry about being dumped by NBC. He's been adopted by Fox News. I know he's had him on. He's been on all the shows, and they made a big deal even this morning talking about how he's getting a bum deal, and
he's always been all over Fox News. He does his call-ins, very very often. So I mean, it's not surprising that they would have him on. I'm sure that he would find a new home at Fox if need be or something like that. I mean, Fox News knows how to get good ratings. The same reason that you hate having to talk about it, but all we're talking about is Donald Trump here is why Fox News is covering it, because they know that people care. And honestly, they should be covering him. He's number 2 in the polls for the Republican primary. So James Pindell from The Globe wrote a good article, I think, a few weeks ago about how he got over himself in reporting on Donald Trump, how he was always saying, like, this is a joke, why am I covering him? But it doesn't matter, necessarily that what people in D.C. might think about him. If voters are naming him as somebody that they would vote for, then we should be covering him.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if Donald Trump is out of NBC, Brian Williams is coming back, at least to MSNBC. What's that all about? Hadas Gold is here. She's got all the answers on the media, does it for Politico, Politico.com, 866-55-PRESS. Your comments welcome on Donald Trump or Brian Williams. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. Why you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 12 minutes now before the top of the hour. We'll get into the nationwide political scene in the next hour, as well as other news of the day. Right now we're talking media biz with newly engaged Hadas Gold from Politico, a media reporter. Works with our friend Dylan Byers at Politico. Now that he's moved to the West Coast, you've got the rest of the country all to yourself. Yeah.
All mine.
So what's up with Brian Williams? We weren't sure when he left whether he would ever come back anywhere, and NBC has found a slot for him.
Yeah, he'll be at MSNBC. He'll be doing this kind of...
At
MSNBC.
Right. Yeah.
He'll be covering their breaking news, kind of a roving anchor position. And Lester Holt has been officially named as anchor of NBC Nightly News, which is significant because he's the first African-American anchor of a nightly news program.
Mm-hmm.
Very well respected amongst his colleagues, so it is a little bit sad for him that he had to come into this position under these circumstances.
Right.
But he did get a win as his first week as official anchor. They won the ratings. Although they lost, they were in second quarter. They do have that on their favor. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people thought that Brian Williams is going to return to the NBC family in some capacity. A lot of people were saying that he might revive Rock Center. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll probably be doing things similar to that. He'll be doing, special packages and interviews, and he will be Lester's stand-in for breaking news on NBC. So roles are kind of being reversed here. And it's not, if anything, it might be helpful to MSNBC, which is kind of struggling. And if they can bring some of the news gravitas back to it, it might be helpful. Thomas Roberts has kind of started to do that by taking over some of that daytime chunk. But it's, it was the best thing that they could do for him. And he clearly wasn't going to go out easy. He wasn't just going to accept a bunch of money and, leave quietly.
It's pretty clear that MSNBC regrets what they said a year and a half, 2 years ago, where they said, we don't do breaking news. I think they really regret that. And I think that just about every move that they've made since then shows that they regret that.
I was talking to one NBC insider who made a point that that this is a risky strategy because it always has. It's been like when there's big breaking news, who do they put on the air? They put their lead anchor on the air to break the news. Peter Jennings did it. Brian Williams did it. Tom Brokaw did it. Right now, it'll be where Lester might think I ought to be doing that. It's going to be Brian Williams instead. So it's going to set up a little tension between the two of them. Who's really the top dog?
It's very similar to George Stephanopoulos and David Muir at ABC. David Muir, traditionally the nightly news anchor, is the one who handles the breaking news situations. But then you have George Stephanopoulos, who has his own back issues that we know about. Dealing, so who takes over breaking news in that situation? Who gets the big interviews in that situation? So very, very similar. But yeah, what is MS? It almost makes MSNBC kind of sound like the dumping ground. Like, this is just where we'll put you for now.
Yeah, but Brian will not consider it a dumping ground.
No.
And he'll be using it, I think, every way he can to get back in the limelight.
He'll be the biggest fish there. So
absolutely. Meanwhile, that probably means there will be other changes, at least they're rumored now, at MSNBC. So tell us today, who stays and who goes?
There's been a lot of talk for a while that shows such as Chris Hayes are going to be not necessarily canceled completely, but moved to, weekends or something like that. That's the one that keeps popping up in people that I talk to all the time. And they're one of the senior producers for that show just left for a new position. So, there's signals there, that something's happening. Although nothing is official, there's all talk and nothing's official till the hammer actually drops. So what we saw them do recently when they took off Joy Reid and Ronan Farrow is the direction they're going to keep going in and replacing things with more hard news and refocusing things a little bit. Morning Joe is, trying to reclaim its spot amongst viewers. It's still number one viewed morning show, I believe, in the Washington, D.C. area, right? But amongst like millennials or the demographic that they need, they're lagging behind CNN, and obviously all of them are lagging behind Fox and Friends, although actually all of the morning shows in this last quarter had the worst performance amongst the demographic since August of 2001. So nobody's doing well because young people aren't watching morning shows. They are watching it on their phones or, on their over-the-box, Apple TV or something like that. So that's something else. The ratings need to also catch up to that. But it just goes to show you that all the morning shows are having these problems.
Wow. Yeah, here we go. So there's your alternative is watch the Bill Press Show.
That's great.
Yeah, on Free Speech TV.
Bring it.
Hey, Hadas, great to see you as always. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
coming in. Congratulations
Thank you
again.
very much.
And we'll be back and tell you, President, busy day today on the road, and we'll tell you where and why.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go, folks, into hour number 3, just about. Don't forget, you lose us on Free Speech TV until, you can watch the third hour, still on Free Speech, but not until 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. You can catch us right away on our video stream. We encourage you to jump over there at youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR TV. We'll check in on the latest on that prison breakup in New York. David Sweat is singing like a canary, finding out all about what their plans were. We'll also take a look at the politics of the day. All of that coming up in hour number 3. We'll see you on the other side.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, President Obama on the road today, but first he gets a daily briefing at the White House with Vice President Joe Biden. And then the two of them will step out into the Rose Garden at 11 o'clock to make the official announcement that we will be opening an American embassy in Havana by the end of July, and Cuba will be opening a Cuban embassy here in Washington, D.C., also by the end of the month. Then the president hops on the waiting helicopter to jump out to Joint Base Andrews on his way to Nashville, Tennessee, where this afternoon he will be speaking about Obamacare and health care in light of the Supreme Court ruling and telling other states that they should get on the stick and start extending Medicaid under Obamacare. And then the president back to the White House this evening, overnight, before he heads out to Wisconsin tomorrow. We'll be back with hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The latest CNN poll on Republican presidential candidates nationwide. Jeb Bush, number 1, and number 2, Donald Trump. Is this what the Republican Party stands for? Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Bill Press Show on this Wednesday, July 1. So good to see you. It's good to be back together again here, Bill Press and friends from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, with you on your local progressive talk radio station, worldwide, on our video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV, and nationwide as well, not just on the radio, but on television, on Free Speech TV, which you can find, of course, on DirecTV or the Dish Network on your satellite dish. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots going on, lots to talk about, and we will get into all of it with you and then give you a chance to tell us what it all means to you, what you think about it all. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. You can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. And we introduce our team as we do at the top of each hour with Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Thank you for being here, and thanks to Jamie Benson. Ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and our videographer, Monty Kensler, is sitting in for Cyprian Bolding today and doing a good job, and we appreciate that. And, you know, if you're running for president and you really want to show confidence that you can win and you're convinced you're going to be the next president of the United States, you probably shouldn't be trying out for another job at the same time. Right?
Yeah, that's probably.
Wouldn't that be kind of...
It's a good way to put it.
Rule number 1?
Yeah.
Okay. But Ted Cruz never learned that, obviously. So he's running for president, but he's also running for being the next voice for The Simpsons.
So Harry
Shearer's retired.
Is retiring. Or
right.
He's
or has
stepping
retired.
away from the show.
Yes.
So Ted Cruz did this BuzzFeed video where he tried out for all of these different character voices on The Simpsons. We should warn you. This ain't good.
No. Okay, so he explains...
so cringy.
He explains what he's going to do. He doesn't... His voice sounds weird.
Yeah, he has a weird...
No. His voice alone when he's weird. When he's trying not to be weird, he's still weird. Yeah. He sounds like a character on The Simpsons even before he tries
really does.
So he did this BuzzFeed video. Here's the first part of it.
Hi, I'm Ted. With Harry Shearer retiring, I'm auditioning for any part I can get in The Simpsons.
Harry's real, by the trying to be real.
Smithers, release the hounds. Excellent. Hidely-ho, neighbor. Oakley-dokley, neighborino. One of the great exchanges between Homer and Lisa.
Listen to this.
But Dad, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat animals. But Lisa, animals are so delicious. There's the animal we get bacon from, the animal we get ham from, the animal we get sausage from.
Oh.
It's so bad.
I mean, it's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. Like, I get embarrassed listening to it.
But I'm telling you, his voice introducing it is as weird as anything.
How could we forget?
Yes.
This. It's like I love Simpsons lines. I love BSing with my friends and talking about our favorite Simpsons episodes. But none of us take on this tone of, let's not forget the...
If anything, it's a lesson on how you can do every character in the exact same voice.
Right. They all sound the same.
Yeah, right.
Stupid.
All right, so then
stupid.
The other character now is running for president.
Oh, yeah, so this is Kang and Kodos. These are the two aliens that appear in several of the episodes.
Yeah.
And they do this thing where they take over the world, and they're going to run for run for president.
And Ted Cruz tells us about it.
Kang and Kodos. In one of the great classic episodes, when they run for president, I'm running for president now, and it's really tough. Forward, not backwards. Upwards, not downwards. And always twirling for freedom. I have been told many times, I have a face for radio, and I have a face for animation.
The face for radio.
I gotta tell you one thing.
I don't know, man.
He doesn't have a face for 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
For sure.
Yeah. And by the way, he's even dropped out of the top 5 in the latest CNN poll. So,
yeah, he's a disaster.
All right. God. I always thought he was a nut. Now I'm even more convinced of it. Yes, indeed. Shane Goldmacher from the National Journal will join us a little bit later in the hour to talk about the latest presidential candidate among the Republicans, Chris Christie, coming in to yesterday, making it number 14. And why not Joe? But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple other stories making news. Yes. Breaking news, Bill.
Yes, Ted.
All
right, breaking news.
This morning from the White House Office of the First Lady, the White House lifts camera and photo ban on public tours. Today, the White House is lifting its long-standing camera and photo ban on public tours. This ban has been in place for over 40 years.
Wow.
Did you know that? I had no idea.
Huh.
Effective today, guests are now...
I take photos in the White House all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I did yesterday, tweeted a few out.
Effective today, guests are now welcome to take photos throughout the White House tour route and keep those memories for a lifetime. So permitted items, this is from the White House press release, phones and compact still cameras with a 3 inches are allowed inside the White House. Photography is permitted but may not interfere with the enjoyment of other guests on the tour. However, these are still on the prohibited item list. Video cameras, any kind of action camcorders, cameras with detachable lens, tablets, tripods, monopods, and camera sticks, a.k.a. selfie sticks, are not permitted on the White House tour.
You know what? You've got your phone. You have a video camera.
You do?
That's true. How are they going to regulate that?
There's no way they'll be able to stop you from taking a video on your cell phone.
They're going to try. But you're right. You're right. There's
you're holding
no
up
way.
your phone. They don't know whether you're videographing or whatever. Or
they'll try.
Yeah.
They'll try. But yeah, you're right. Big news for California yesterday as California Governor Jerry Brown signed a mandatory vaccination bill.
Good for him.
They used to have this exemption, citing personal belief, where parents could use that as a loophole to avoid vaccinating their children, but no more. This is among the strictest law in the country. Children would not be able to enroll in public schools unless they have been vaccinated against diseases like measles and whooping cough. The law still does have an exemption, however, for children who have a medical reason to remain unvaccinated, which apparently that exists. It's like an immune system disorder.
Yeah.
One of the things that they cited. But they have to have a doctor's note. And if you don't do it, then you always have parents who decline to vaccinate their children for personal or religious reasons will have to homeschool them or send them to a public independent study program off school grounds.
Now, this really went crazy a couple of months ago, and I forget who was it. Christie or somebody got? Yeah, Christie was in England.
Oh yeah. That's right.
And he got in trouble about
That's
it.
right.
And there was a lot of people in California who were stressing this. I don't have to do it if my religion won't tell. And so Jerry Brown settled this once and for all with that legislation yesterday. Good for him.
Finally, the American Customer Satisfaction Index polled 5,000 people and asked them, who is your favorite fast food chain? Mm-hmm. We have a number one. Any guesses? Number one? What number one is?
In-N-Out.
In-N-Out is, I'm sorry, that's not even in the top 20.
Ooh.
Any guesses, Elisa?
Is it Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A is number one.
Really?
See, people love that place. It is
Chick-fil-A
true.
is number one. Their politics are a little sketchy, but they came in number one. Number two,
mine is still Five Guys.
Five Guys is not on the list. You have to remember that Five Guys is not regional, but it's not huge. Number two on the list, Chipotle. I'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah, I like Chipotle, particularly the burrito bowl.
What's interesting here is
Really
some of
good.
the big ones, like McDonald's is all the way down at 18. Burger King is all the way down at 15. Wendy's is all the way down at 13. So some of the bigger names, more the giants of fast food, have slipped a lot.
If they ever go nationwide, District Taco would be up there.
Oh.
They have one in Alexandria now.
Do they really?
Yeah, it's really good.
Stuff, man.
I'm telling you, I'm amazed. Sometimes this District Taco we have right around the
here in
corner
the building,
from us.
yeah.
So I'll just say, if I don't have any plans for lunch, I'll drop over there. You can't get into that.
It's crazy,
place.
right?
It is.
It's insane.
Insane. Right.
Plus, they have breakfast tacos.
Haven't been there for breakfast. All right, you got it. 16 minutes after the hour. With all the talk about, this is something we have talked about before, but with all the talk about presidential candidates, I keep coming back to a name that nobody else has talked about, and I've sort of made it, I'm a big Bernie Sanders supporter. I'm a big Hillary Clinton supporter too, but I encourage Bernie to run. I'm delighted Bernie is running. I'm excited that Bernie is doing as well as he is. I love Bernie Sanders. Absolutely right on every issue. But I keep saying, why aren't we also talking about Joe? Why not Joe Biden? And now we know that Joe Biden, Vice President Biden, has not slammed the door on this. He purposely has left the door open. In a couple of interviews this year, remember back in January, he was talking with George Stephanopoulos, and Stephanopoulos asked him, is there any chance that you might actually even run against Hillary?
Yes, there's a chance.
Yes.
But I haven't made my mind up about that. We got a lot of work to do between now and then. There's plenty of time. Look, the person who is going to end Secretary Clinton is a really competent, capable person and a friend. The person who is going to be the next president of the United States is the one who's going to be able to articulate the clearest vision to the American people of where they're going to take the country.
So he says, yeah, there's a chance I could run against Hillary. And by the way, why not? Some people think that, oh my God, running against Hillary is like, defacing the Washington Monument or something.
Right.
No, she's just another candidate, right? She's just another Democrat. She's a great Democrat, but there's nothing sacred about Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden, the vice president, was asked a month later, basically, same answer.
That's a family, personal decision that I'm going to make sometime at the end of the summer.
And he said that out in Iowa. Well, what brings us back to my mind this week is that over the weekend, Monday, actually, the Wall Street Journal ran a little note that got a lot of buzz that both Beau Biden, before he died, and Hunter Biden the president's son, have both urged and recommended to their father that he run for president in 2016, that this was his time, that he ought to go for it. Now, that started a lot of talk. And let me tell you something. I've been around this town long enough, and I've been around politics long enough in California and now here. That little item, that little story, that little rumor did not just drop out of the sky by accident. I'm telling you, I am totally convinced. I would be willing to bet the farm on the fact that was leaked by the vice president's office to get his name back in the mix. And now we've seen, as of yesterday, this email, two other factors I would just throw out there. One is this email controversy that continues to dog Hillary Clinton. I don't know how serious it is. I don't know. I don't think it's something that would derail her presidential campaign. But my point is this. The more baggage, the more little mini scandals, the more little controversy around Hillary Clinton, the more likely it is that the vice president will run for president because he'll see that she's wounded. Number one. Number two, Bernie Sanders. The better he does, and the last poll in New Hampshire shows Hillary at 43 and Bernie at 35. He's closing in on her. I had a prominent Democrat the other day tell me that he thinks that Bernie Sanders could actually win Iowa and New Hampshire, the first two states.
Can you imagine?
Unbelievable. My point here again is the better Bernie does, the more likely it is that Joe Biden will run. And why not? He should run, absolutely should run. And he would make a great president. If you look at experience, Hillary's got tremendous experience as former First Lady, former U.S. Senator, former Secretary of State, former presidential candidate. Joe Biden can match her every step of the way with experience. With 35 years in the U.S. Senate, 8 years as Vice President of the United States, Chairman of Foreign Relations, Chairman of Judiciary Committee, author of the Violence Against Women Act. He's got every bit as much of experience. So my question again is, why not Joe? He should run, and we should be encouraging him to run. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS. Let's do it. Go, Joe. Go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Dentist.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. Isn't any fun? You should. So who's batteries?
Oh, I don't need.
That's tough.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour, Shane Goldmacher from National Journal joins us at the half. And we're talking about Joe Biden, but first a little breaking news here, Peter.
You know, I talked about how the Girl Scouts camped on the front lawn of the White House. An update.
Last night is not a night I would want to have been camping out in Washington.
Right. I got an update at 1:26 a.m.
That's when it happened.
Astronaut Katie Coleman, who was with the group of Girl Scouts that was camping, she tweeted out a photo that said, "Thunder, lightning, and the elements were against us. FLOTUS said, let's move to the 4th floor of the Eisenhower building." So they brought the girls inside, set their mats up on the floor inside there.
The old executive office building,
Yep,
yeah.
That's where they went.
Not in the White House. Aww.
Not in the actual White House, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that was a fierce storm in the middle of the night last night. Hey, we're going to jump out to back to Joe Biden. At the Palm Springs, California. Andrea, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. First, I wanted to mention a cartoon that ran on Saturday by Harry Bliss, B-L-I-S-S. It was a portrait of Bernie Sanders standing in a very defiant stance with his hands on his hips and his jacket open, and on his shirt is the iconic cartoon superhero Underdog. Here I come to save the day. And I think if they made that into a poster, that could be as iconic as Shepard Fairey's Obama portrait. And I am a big Bernie Sanders fan, and I am all for a Sanders-Biden ticket, because I think Biden is the best vice president we could ever have, and he could just stay. He wouldn't even have to move.
There we go. Wouldn't have to move. He could stay in the house, stay in his office, right? And he certainly knows how to do the job, right, Andrea?
Absolutely. Yes. So that's what I'm rooting for.
All right, good. I can listen. You can feel the burn.
Feel the burn
in Palm Springs. And I have to tell you, it would not be the first time that I felt the burn in Palm Springs. Lounging around the pool in Palm Springs, I felt the burn many times. And yeah, Bernie Sanders, he has got a lot of support around the world, and maybe Joe will jump in too. What a team.
This is the Bill Press Show.
They called her Little Sanju. She was born in a village at the foot of the Himalayas, the smallest of 7 brothers and sisters.
My family was very poor. To get by, we raised cows and we made small things for tourists out of bamboo. But we were always hungry, and no matter how hard he tried, my father was always in debt. When I was 11, my father told me I had to go to work making carpets. I had to leave with a man who took me to the carpet factory. The broker who took me away got paid, but they never paid my father anything. I made knots from 4 in the morning until 8 at night. There was never a day off. I was always hungry. I cut my fingers while weaving and had to weave with cut fingers. My hands began to look like my grandmother's. I cried every night. I thought the rest of my life would be only this.
It takes 1 million knots to make one 8x10 rug. In the 1990s, 1 million children were enslaved making carpets in South Asia. Then a hero entered the picture. It was you. If you knew how these carpets were made, you would no longer think they were so beautiful. And if you could choose a better rug, your buying power could end child slavery in the rug industry. From that simple idea, Goodweave was born. Here's how it works. To earn the Goodweave label, companies agreed not to employ children. Goodweave makes sure by conducting surprise inspections. When children are found, Goodweave helps them.
2 years ago, a Goodweave inspector named Grona found me in the factory. When I saw him, I was scared, but Grona put his arm around me and told me it would be okay. Grona took me to Hamrogar, a home for rescued carpet kids run by Goodweave. I'm the first person in my family to ever go to school.
Today, thousands of children like Sanju have been educated and rescued by Goodweave. And because you chose the Goodweave label, 3/4 of those million children weaving carpets are now free. And Sanju? With Goodweave's support, she's able to attend her village school and live at home where she belongs. Now that's a beautiful rug that tells a beautiful story. Stand with Sanju. Insist on the Goodweave label.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Oh, yes, indeed. It is now official. He is number 14, 33 minutes after the hour, by the way. Here, The Bill Press Show. Wednesday, July 1. Yes, he 14, Republican running president, 16 of the Christie Goldmacher, senior political correspondent, the National Newsline. Hello, do you think Chris Christie maybe should run in 2012 rather than 2016? What's going on there?
I think that's really a huge question around his candidacy. So much of the Republican establishment was trying to lure him into the race in 2012. One notable billionaire who actually this week did this big dinner for him in Manhattan in late 2011, and basically of the Republican Party begging on Mitt Romney. He didn't get the country for him now. Say perhaps 4 years ago.
In terms of the opinion polls, have gone down, but reported. Times reports this morning. His approval ratings have also in New Jersey, in his home state.
Yeah, I mean, he's at all-time lows. Of course, he's not the only Republican candidate running for president with all-time low approval ratings back home. Bobby Jindal, who just announced recently, is faced with the exact same problem. Mm-hmm. The issue for Chris Christie is, what is the record that he's going to run on as he tries to say he should be president? And the really striking thing about yesterday's event and previously following him around New Hampshire, where he's really staking his candidacy, is that he's running for president because he's Chris Christie, and he thinks that the nation needs somebody who's big and bold and bombastic and going to, as his slogan is, tell it like it is. And he's not talking so much about exactly what it is that he would do if he was elected. Really, the first 7 or 8 minutes of his event yesterday in Livingston was all him talking about his family and his history and where he came from. And that's pretty common. A lot of candidates, Marco Rubio perhaps better than most, fold their family narrative into their story. But usually they pivot quickly to, and this is what I mean for America and what I think for America. And Chris Christie told his family narrative and said, and that's who's made me who I am, and you want somebody like me to lead you.
So it's sort of he's running on his personality and his style. Is that it?
Absolutely. And he's making a bet again in New Hampshire that this is where it's going to connect. So notably, basically follow where candidates go and not what they say, and that tells you a lot about their priorities. He flew up to New Hampshire immediately after announcing, and he's going to be there all the way through the July 4th holiday. That's a pretty long trip to be sticking around in one state and not visiting the likes of South Carolina, not visiting the likes of Iowa. And so, he's taking his chance to get there, and he's doing it through his personality, through round-table town halls where he's going to take questions and roll up his sleeves, and he has a routine. He tosses his jacket at the beginning of every town hall and, tell voters as it is, as you like to say.
Yeah. So the town halls that gained him national fame in New Jersey, he has moved on the road now, right? He's not doing it back in New Jersey anymore.
He joked a couple months ago that he told his son that he was always heading up to New Hampshire for the weekend, and his son said, "Oh, your new home state." Very much that's the case.
Is that it? Yeah, the new home state. Now, I have to ask you, so he comes in at 3% in the latest CNN poll among Republican candidates, and Donald Trump comes in number 2, 12% to Jeb Bush with 19%. This is the CNN poll out today. What's with this Trump bump? I mean, is it for real?
I mean, people forget that Donald Trump did at one point lead the Republican primary polls in 2012 as well. Celebrity gets you really far. At the end of the day, I don't think Donald Trump is a candidate who's to be taken seriously in the same vein of a Jeb Bush, a Scott Walker, a Marco Rubio. He has money, he has name ID. But you look at the sort of innards of these polls, and usually Donald Trump is the person the party says most they wouldn't vote for. 60%, 70% say he's not somebody who they would ever support. There was one poll in Iowa, and I forget what poll it is, so forgive me, where he had a 16% would potentially vote for him, and 71% said no. Nobody else is even close to that. Now, talk about Christie. Christie's the guy with that same problem, just to a lesser extent. He's somebody who's turned off a huge swath of the Republican Party. And a lot of folks say, it's just about Bridgegate and it's about the New Jersey economy hasn't been very good. But for a chunk of Republican voters you talk to, it dates back to that hug he gave Barack Obama just a few days before the 2012 election after the hurricane.
So is there time for Christie to turn it around?
The sort of approach that his team has is we're going to go to New Hampshire where there's really no front runner. We're going to hope that somebody wins that muddles the race in Iowa a little bit. And then the race is going to turn there, and he will have been there more than any other candidate. And their hope is if, say, a Jeb Bush doesn't do well in Iowa, that Christie can beat him in New Hampshire. And, let's say if Ted Cruz wins in Iowa, then it becomes a Cruz versus Christie race. This is their dream, right? A very conservative candidate out of Iowa. He becomes the establishment candidate there, wins a couple other places, and has that sort of personality to break through. The big problem for him is breaking through it all means getting on the debate stage. And he's on there right now. He's in the top 10 of most polling averages, but he is clinging to the edges of the debate stage. He's in 9th or 10th place nationally. And you count down Bush, Walker, Rubio, Carson, Huckabee, Trump, Paul. All these people are in front of him, and he really, really, really needs to get on that stage.
Right. If he's going to show this bombastic style, right, he's got to have a platform to do it on. Right. At some point, Shane Goldmacher again is our guest here on talking about Chris Christie, senior political correspondent for the National Journal at nationaljournal.com. With given the budget problems and other problems in New Jersey, how long is he going to be? I mean, one of his other fellow Republicans is going to start talking about that record at some point. He can't run away from that record forever, Shane, can he?
Well, here's the advantage for him is because he is so low in the polls, nobody's going to punch down, right? Nobody's going to. Jeb Bush is not going to take on Chris Christie right now because it's not in Jeb Bush's interest.
Right.
Now, if and when Chris Christie rises in the polls, absolutely. And during those debates, if Rick Perry talks about his job creation record, Chris Christie doesn't have the same kind of job creation record. New Jersey has trailed its neighboring states, and in the Northeast, your neighboring states are a pretty good indicator of, how you've managed your economy. He's been trailing those neighboring states for the last few years. But probably one of the other big budget problems for Chris Christie is his campaign budget and where he's going to get his money. He was expected at one point to be one of the best-funded Republicans in the whole field. And now that Jeb Bush has vacuumed up all this money, there's real questions. And I mentioned that Ken Langone. I interviewed him earlier this week. He's the co-founder of Home Depot and probably the most outspoken Chris Christie supporter. And he said, look, he's not going to be writing him a $10 million check. He's going to get checks from other people. The problem is a lot of other people have picked sides. And Langone, who's worth more than $2 billion, has been one of the 2 or 3 people the Christie world has really hoped could write a $10 million check that could float him through the early primaries.
And as you pointed out, these were the people who were with him in 2012. And a lot of those people who were around him in 2012 have now moved on to other horses, haven't they?
Yeah, there was a group of 7, I think it was 7 Republicans from Iowa who flew out to try to convince Christie to run as well. And I think only 1 or 2 of them are officially backing him this time. I mean, these are people who made an effort to desperately get him into the race. And now they're like, look, this is a pretty good field in 2016. We don't have to depend on you, Chris Christie.
Man, it's interesting to watch. And Chris Christie, he swears that as soon as he gets out there and people see him, that he'll get the numbers back, he'll get the support back, and he'll be a major factor. Again, maybe his time was in 2012, and he just missed the boat then. Hey, Shane, good to talk to you today. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your good insights into the Christie campaign and others. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me on the program.
All right, Shane Goldmacher, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go at 14 minutes before the top of the hour. It is The Bill Press Show, Wednesday, July 1, here on your local progressive talk radio station, here with you nationwide on your, again, local progressive talk radio station or one of the radio apps, Tune In or iHeartRadio. Here with you nationwide also on Free Speech TV this day, the eve of our big Bill Press and Friends celebration tomorrow. 10 years at it, 10 years joining you every morning. It's been great fun, and we thank you for your welcome, 10-year welcome, Matt. That
tomorrow should be a fun show.
Okay.
It's not a huge blowout or anything like that.
No,
but it'll be. We're gonna do our regular show,
right?
But it's gonna be fun
with a little extra buzz.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, so join us for that. You can get your champagne at home and have it ready. Put it on ice right now, so you
have
can
it ready.
Celebrate with us
6 a.m. Eastern time
tomorrow morning. And we're gonna have a one big surprise guest. It might be Donald Trump. You know what? If we wanted him, we could get him.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you kidding me? He'd do it.
There is no doubt about it. He would he would do it because he is everywhere, and he is seizing any opportunity. I got to tell you, NBC and Univision, or Univision, they played right into his hands by dumping the Miss Universe pageant and giving him an opportunity to get even more publicity, which, of course, here we are, part of it, talking about it. But it all goes back to his announcement. Now, people, when they announce for president, like Chris Christie did yesterday, Bobby Jindal did last week, they want to get a little buzz, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want it just to be any other ho-hum presidential announcement. Well, Donald Trump's certainly was not. His certainly will always stand out as one of the most controversial presidential announcements, not because he said he was running, because he said one of the reasons he's running is to clean up the border. Here he is, remember.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they tell us what we're getting. And it only makes common sense. It only makes common sense. They're sending us not the right people.
So that was just so inflammatory, such a racist rant that it has created all kinds of repercussions. Mexico has well, first of all, NBC, as I mentioned earlier, NBC and Univision have dropped the Miss Universe pageant.
Yep.
Miss Mexico has dropped out of the pageant. Miss Mexico has said she will not participate. I'm sure the government told her not to, or it suggested that she not, representing their country. The host, Thomas Roberts from MSNBC, of the Miss Universe pageant, has dropped out.
Yep.
And when's this pageant supposed to be?
It's in less than 2 weeks. It's like July 12th or 13th.
Right.
So it's right around the corner.
Right. And so last night,
so dopey, man.
If he's been dropped by NBC, he's been adopted long time ago, adopted by Fox News. So last night he's given a chance to defend himself on Bill O'Reilly, and Bill O'Reilly even says, "Now, do you want to take anything back? You want to change anything that we just heard that you'd said about the Mexicans?"
No, because it's totally accurate, and you should have let it play a little bit longer because it really covers it actually even a little bit better, but it's totally accurate.
I'll just
double down. The border is a disaster, Bill. People are pouring in, and I mean illegal people, illegal immigrants, and they're pouring in. 300 and some odd thousand are in your state jails right now, according to Homeland Security. I have the report right here. Homeland Security. Over 300,000 are in between the state and federal jails and penitentiaries. In terms of rape, this is an amazing statistic. 80% of Central American women and girls are raped crossing into the U.S. Now,
I just don't believe anything he says. I don't know where he gets that statistic from. 80%. And then he goes on to say, well, he may say those things about Mexico, but still, he really loves Mexicans. If we got that, yeah, right? No, okay, we'll get to it.
Some of his best friends are Mexican, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those statements.
All right.
I love Mexican people.
Yeah.
I have a tremendous relationship. I also respect Mexico, but Mexico's doing a tremendous number against the United States. What they're doing to us in trade, first of all, they're killing us at the border. Second of all, Bill, what they're doing to us in trade is unbelievable. They're taking our jobs, they're taking our manufacturing, and they're taking our money. And now, I'm not angry at Mexico because, frankly, their representatives and leaders are smarter than ours. I'm angry at our country for having such bad negotiators and such bad leaders.
Yeah, just for the record there, he's talking to Bill O'Reilly, not Bill,
you.
Not Bill Press.
Well, let's save that.
Yeah. So what did Trump announce yesterday? He has turned around, and now so if NBC and Univision dropped the Miss Universe pageant, he has sued Univision. Yesterday, they filed the papers for $500 million. And as Hadas from Politico told us a little earlier on our broadcast, he is probably going to end up suing NBC as well. All of this is doing is keeping him in the news. And as a result of all of that publicity, in the latest CNN poll released today, Jeb Bush is number one among the Republican candidates with 19%, and Donald Trump is number two with 12%.
He's second place in that national poll. He's second place in the most recent New Hampshire poll. He's second place in the most recent Iowa poll. 3 different polls, and he is in the second position just after Jeb Bush. And he's behind Scott Walker in the Iowa poll.
And I'll bet you the sane people among the leadership of the Republican Party are saying, holy crap.
You know they are.
What do we do now? I'll tell you what we do now. We'll take a break, and I'll be back with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, what do you know? America just got a raise. Yep, who says you need Congress to get things done in Washington? President Obama just proved again there's more than one way to get things done here. Where Congress won't act, he will, and he acted yesterday to help American working families. Under existing rules, you only get overtime if you earn less than $23,660 a year. President Obama has changed that from now on, starting in 2016. You'll get overtime if you make up to $50,440 a year. That's a long overdue pay raise for as many as 5 million American workers. In fact, according to Labor Secretary Tom Perez, that's a pay raise of $1.2 to $1.3 billion annually. Good for American workers, good for President Obama. That's it, folks, for today. We'll see you back here again tomorrow. We'll be looking for you.